Today we're jumping into one of the most extreme, most chilling acts of censorship in all of history. It's a moment when a brand new emperor decided that the only way to control the future was to literally burn the past. This is the story of China's great burning of the books. Just think about that for a second. Seriously, what if the books on your shelf could get you killed? Not just canceled, not just fined, but actually executed. This isn't some dystopian fantasy. This was the reality in ancient China. And that single terrifying question sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. All right, so to understand why anyone would even think of burning books on a national scale, you have to get inside the head of the man who lit the match, Qin Shi Huang. He was China's very first emperor. And look, he did something incredible. He took a bunch of warring kingdoms and forged them into a single nation. But he was terrified. Absolutely terrified that the ideas that had been floating around for centuries could tear his new empire right apart. Okay, this timeline gives us some really important perspective. You see that warring states period? That's centuries of non-stop brutal warfare. So when Qin Shi Huang finally unifies China in 221 BCE, it's a huge deal. But then look how fast things go wrong. Just 8 years later, 8 years after creating the empire, the order comes down to start the fires. So what on earth happened in that short window? This right here, this really spells out the problem he faced. Before him, you didn't just have 7 different armies. You had hundreds of different ideas about how the world should work. You had Confucianism, Taoism, a whole marketplace of philosophies. But after unification, Qin Shi Huang wanted one empire, one law, and, well, one way of thinking. Suddenly, all those competing philosophies weren't interesting debates anymore. They were a threat. And that leads us straight into our next chapter. The physical war was over, but a new one was just beginning. This was a war of words, a showdown between the absolute power of the emperor and the intellectual freedom of the scholars. You could think of the emperor's official philosophy as his operating system, and that system was called legalism. The core idea is pretty simple and pretty brutal. The state is everything. Order is maintained through strict laws and incredibly harsh punishments. The emperor's word isn't just law, it's the only thing that matters. In a system like that, there's just no room for debate or disagreement. But of course, that's exactly what the scholars, especially the followers of Confucius, were doing. They loved history. They believed the past held all the answers. So they talk about these legendary wise kings from centuries ago as a way of, subtly, or not so subtly, criticizing the emperor's new harsh regime. To the emperor, this wasn't helpful advice. This was an attack. And that's really the heart of it. A philosophical disagreement was now being seen as a direct challenge to power. The emperor and his chief advisor, a man named Li Si, looked at this and thought, independent thinking isn't leading to wisdom, it's leading to chaos. They were convinced they had to crush it before it spread. So this brings us to the moment it all goes down. And it's important to know the emperor wasn't alone in this. It was his chancellor, Li Si, who came up with the plan. A chillingly logical and terrifyingly effective proposal to solve the problem of history. I mean, just look at how methodical this is. Li Si basically lays out a 4-step plan. Step 1, identify the enemy. It's the scholars using the past to criticize you. Step 2, find the root cause. It's people learning things on their own outside of your control. Step 3, the solution, and it's a chilling one. Destroy their source material. Burn the books. And step 4, the final nail in the coffin, enforce it with the death penalty. Make sure everyone knows you're not kidding. And this quote from Li Si himself just says it all. He's essentially telling the emperor, look, you won the military victory, you unified the country, but you're losing the information war. If you don't shut down these private teachings, your power is going to crumble. It's an argument for total information dominance, a playbook that, frankly, has been used again and again throughout history. And the emperor agreed. He bought it completely. What followed was one of the greatest tragedies in the history of human knowledge. So when those fires were lit, what did the world actually lose? Let's take a look. Now, this wasn't just a random book burning. It was a precision strike. They went after anything that offered a different point of view, the histories of all the kingdoms they had just conquered, all those different schools of philosophy, even poetry. But look what they saved. Practical stuff like books on medicine and farming. And, of course, the official history of their own Qin state. So you see, they weren't against knowledge itself. They were against any knowledge that challenged their authority.
And then there's this, the human cost. The stories passed down say that over 460 scholars were executed, and the legend is that many were buried alive as a public warning. This was never just about burning paper. It was about terrorizing and eliminating the people who held the ideas. So when you boil it all down, that was the ultimate ambition here, to hit the reset button on history, to make sure that the only story that could be told was the government's story. It was nothing less than an attempt to create a total monopoly on truth.
So, the big question is, did it actually work? This brings us to the final and maybe the most interesting part of the story, its legacy. Because what happened after the fires is what truly matters.
The irony here is just off the charts. The goal was to make the dynasty last forever, right? Well, the reality is the Qin Dynasty collapsed just a few years after the emperor died. It's one of the shortest-lived dynasties in Chinese history. He wanted to be remembered as the great unifier, but instead, this act made him the poster child for tyranny. And the most beautiful part, the ideas he tried so hard to erase, they survived. People hid books, scholars memorized entire texts, and the knowledge was passed on in secret.
And that's the ultimate twist. In trying to erase this chapter of history, they accidentally made it one of the most powerful and unforgettable lessons in history. It became this legendary cautionary tale about the arrogance of power and the incredible resilience of human thought. Which leaves us with this final, lingering question. The fires turned countless bamboo scrolls to ash, no doubt. But the ideas written on them, they found a way to live. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can you ever really destroy an idea with fire and force? Or does trying to do so just guarantee that it will live forever?